took a flirty joke too far, and now our entire neighborhood is siding with him. Hi, Reddit. I don't even know where to begin. Sitting here typing this, I can't believe how much my life has fallen apart in just a few short weeks. Everything I thought I had, my marriage, my friendships, my sense of place in the world, is gone, and it's entirely my fault. I'm not saying that to fish for sympathy or try to downplay what I've done. I just need to admit it, out loud, to someone, to anyone, because keeping it inside feels like it's eating me alive. My name is Emily, I'm 35, and up until recently, I thought I had a pretty good life. My husband, Tom, was devoted to me in a way I think most women dream of. He worked hard to give us a stable, comfortable life. He supported me in everything I did, even when I didn't deserve it. He loved me truly and deeply, and I took it all for granted. I always thought he'd be there no matter what. I thought I could do no wrong in his eyes. I was wrong. It all started with something so small, something I didn't think twice about at the time. A little flirting here, a playful joke there. We'd just gotten a new neighbor, Ryan, a younger guy who was charming in a way that was hard to ignore. At first, it was nothing. Just light conversation when I saw him walking his dog, or during casual chats at neighborhood gatherings. It felt harmless, even fun. I liked the attention, the way it made me feel noticed in a way I hadn't in years. But looking back, I can see how easily I crossed the line. It wasn't just harmless banter, it was something more, and I let it happen. I told myself it didn't mean anything, that it was just a little excitement in an otherwise predictable life. But those small moments, those tiny decisions, started to snowball into something bigger, something I couldn't control. And then I made the biggest mistake of all. I said something I could never take back. At a neighborhood block party surrounded by friends and familiar faces, I made a joke. It was flirty, a little too familiar, and Ryan laughed, but I didn't notice the look on Tom's face, or the way a few of the neighbors exchanged glances. In my head, it was just a light-hearted comment, something that would be forgotten by the end of the night. But it wasn't. That joke was the spark that lit the fire, the moment everything started to unravel. Tom didn't say much that night. He didn't yell or make a scene. He just went quiet, his expression unreadable, and I told myself he was being dramatic. I didn't think it was a big deal. I thought he'd get over it, the way he always did. But this time was different. This time, I had crossed a line I didn't even realize existed, and I had no idea how far-reaching the consequences would be. Now here I am, writing this from a place I never thought I'd be, alone, isolated, with the weight of my choices pressing down on me. I've lost Tom. I've lost the trust of our neighbors, people I used to consider friends. And for what? A few moments of attention, a few selfish decisions that spiraled out of control before I even realized what was happening. If you're reading this, you're probably wondering how things could have gotten so bad. Trust me, I'm still trying to figure that out myself, but I know one thing for sure. I never thought a silly little joke could destroy everything I'd built. And yet, here I am, proof that even the smallest cracks can bring down an entire foundation. Tom and I had been married for 10 years, and for most of that time, I thought we had a good life. Comfortable, stable. We had a nice home in a quiet neighborhood, 2 kids who kept us busy, and a marriage that, from the outside, probably looked solid. And it was, in a lot of ways. Tom worked hard to provide for us, and he was the kind of man who would drop everything to help if I needed him. He loved our kids and was a hands-on father, always at their games and school events. He was dependable, the kind of husband many women would dream of. But that dependability started to feel like monotony. Our conversations revolved around schedules and bills. Date nights turned into TV dinners after the kids went to bed. Even our intimacy felt more like a routine than something born out of passion. I know now that I should have talked to Tom about how I was feeling, but at the time, I didn't know how to put it into words. All I knew was that I felt invisible, like I was just going through the motions of a life that wasn't entirely mine. I started noticing little things that made me feel disconnected from Tom. He was always so focused on work, so preoccupied with making sure we were financially secure. He wasn't the type to offer compliments or tell me I looked good unless I asked. It wasn't that he didn't care, he just showed his love in quieter ways. But I wanted more. I wanted to feel desired, noticed, and seen in a way I hadn't in years. And when I didn't get that from Tom, I started looking for it elsewhere, even if I didn't realize it at first. That's where Ryan came in. He moved into the neighborhood a few months ago, renting a house just a few doors down from ours. He was younger, late 20s maybe, and had this confidence about him that immediately drew people in. He was charming, good-looking, and always seemed to have something clever to say. I noticed the way people gravitated toward him at neighborhood events, the way he could light up a room with just a smile, and if I'm being honest, I noticed the way he looked at me. At first, our interactions were innocent. We'd chat for a few minutes while I was outside with the kids, or exchange pleasantries during neighborhood gatherings. He was friendly, maybe a little flirty, but nothing that felt inappropriate. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was reading too much into his compliments, or the way he'd linger when we talked. But I liked it. I liked the way he made me feel, like I wasn't just a mom or a wife, but a woman who could still turn heads. Things started to shift during a neighborhood barbecue. It was one of those casual afternoons where everyone brought food and drinks, and the kids ran around while the adults chatted. I ended up sitting next to Ryan, and we started talking about nothing in particular. Music, movies, whatever came up. I noticed the way his attention didn't waver, the way he leaned in slightly when I spoke, like he was genuinely interested in what I had to say. When he complimented my dress, I felt a thrill I hadn't felt in years. After that, our conversations became more frequent, more personal. He'd ask about my day, my interests, things I hadn't thought about in ages. It felt nice to have someone pay attention to me, to see me as more than just Tom's wife. I told myself it was harmless, that I could enjoy the attention without letting it go too far. But deep down, I think I knew I was playing with fire. The first time something truly inappropriate happened was during another neighborhood gathering. We were in the kitchen away from the crowd, and he touched my arm while we were talking. It wasn't much, just a light brush of his fingers, but it lingered long enough to send a shiver down my spine. I didn't pull away. Instead, I let the moment hang between us, the air thick with something unspoken. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about him, about the way his touch had made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't long before things escalated. Ryan started finding excuses to see me, offering to help with errands, stopping by when he knew Tom wasn't home. I should have put a stop to it, but instead, I welcomed it. I craved the attention, the way he made me feel like the most important person in the room. One afternoon, he came over under the pretense of borrowing something, and before I knew it, we were kissing in the kitchen. It was frantic and electric, a mix of guilt and desire that made my head spin. That kiss turned into something more a week later. The kids were at a friend's house, and Tom was working late. Ryan came over, and we didn't even bother pretending there was an innocent reason for him to be there. The moment he walked through the door, I felt a rush of adrenaline. When he kissed me, I didn't pull away. When his hands moved over my body, I didn't stop him. We ended up in the bedroom, and for the first time in years, I felt completely untethered. It was exhilarating, like I was someone else entirely, a version of myself I hadn't seen in a long time. The physical connection was intoxicating, but it wasn't just about the sex. It was the way he looked at me, the way he made me feel desired and wanted. With Ryan, I felt like more than just a wife and a mom. I felt like a woman again. I started to seek out those moments, finding excuses to see him, to steal a kiss or more whenever we could. Each encounter felt like a drug, a high I couldn't get enough of, and each time I told myself it didn't mean anything, that it was just a way to fill the void Tom couldn't. But as much as I tried to compartmentalize, the lines between my two lives started to blur. I found myself pulling further away from Tom, avoiding his touch, his questions, his attempts to connect. I blamed him for my restlessness, for not being enough, for driving me into someone else's arms. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was the one who had let things spiral out of control. I was the one who had betrayed him. The breaking point came at a block party. Ryan and I had been dancing around each other all evening, stealing glances and exchanging flirtatious comments when no one was looking. I felt invincible, like no one could see what was really happening. But then I made a mistake. I made a flirty joke, something about how Ryan always knew how to make me laugh. It wasn't explicit, but it was enough to make everyone pause, to make Tom's expression darken. I laughed it off, brushing it aside like it was nothing, but I could feel the shift in the room. That night, Tom confronted me. He said he had noticed the way Ryan and I interacted, the way I seemed to light up around him in a way I hadn't with Tom in years. Instead of listening, I dismissed his concerns, telling him he was overreacting. I thought I could brush it off, make it go away, but I underestimated how much he had already seen. I underestimated him entirely. Looking back, that joke was the moment everything started to fall apart. It was the spark that lit the fire, and once it caught, there was no putting it out. I thought I was in control, but I was wrong. I had no idea how much damage I had already done, or how much worse it was about to get. After the block party, I should have known that things weren't right. Tom had been quieter than usual, more reserved. At first, I chalked it up to the argument we'd had that night, convinced he was just sulking or overthinking my flirty joke with Ryan. I figured it would blow over like our other fights did, that he'd bury his feelings and move on without saying much. But I was wrong. I didn't realize that my words and actions had planted a seed of doubt in him, one that would grow until he couldn't ignore it anymore. Looking back, I can see how things started to shift. Tom became more observant, his attention lingering on the small details I had always assumed he overlooked. He started watching me more closely, not in an overt or confrontational way, but with a quiet intensity that made me uneasy. I caught him looking at me during neighborhood gatherings when I spoke to Ryan, his gaze unreadable. I noticed how his eyes followed us when we were in the same room, even if we weren't interacting directly. I thought I was being careful, that no one could see the subtle glances Ryan and I exchanged, or the way our conversations always seemed to drift toward personal topics. But Tom saw it all. He noticed the way I leaned in when Ryan spoke, the way I laughed a little too easily at his jokes. He noticed how Ryan always seemed to be around, offering to help with little things or finding excuses to talk to me. And when I thought I was hiding my phone while texting, Tom noticed that too. It all came to a head one evening when I left my phone on the counter while I went to check on the kids. I didn't think anything of it. I had become so careless, so convinced that I had covered my tracks. But while I was upstairs, Tom saw a notification light up on the screen. It was a text from Ryan, something casual, but just suggestive enough to make Tom suspicious. He didn't confront me right away. Instead, he waited until I wasn't paying attention and went through my messages. By the time I came back downstairs, he had everything he needed. I didn't realize he had found out until a few days later, at a neighborhood barbecue. He didn't say a word about it beforehand, didn't give me any hint that he knew. I thought things were fine, tense maybe, but manageable. I had no idea he was planning to confront me in front of everyone we knew. The barbecue started like any other. The neighbors gathered in someone's backyard, chatting over drinks and grilling burgers while the kids ran around. I was trying to keep things light, making small talk with a few friends and stealing glances at Ryan whenever I thought no one was looking. I felt confident, maybe even a little smug, like I had everything under control. Tom was his usual quiet self, standing off to the side with a drink in his hand, watching the scene unfold. At some point, Tom stepped forward, clearing his throat to get everyone's attention. I didn't think much of it at first. He wasn't the type to make speeches, but I figured he was going to thank the hosts or say something casual. Instead, he turned to me, his expression calm but firm, and said there was something he needed to share. I felt my stomach drop. The tone of his voice, the way he was looking at me, it was like he was holding a mirror up to my worst fears. He started talking about trust, about respect, about how important those things were in a marriage. He said he had been thinking a lot about our relationship lately, about the distance between us and the reasons behind it. As he spoke, I could feel the weight of his words pressing down on me, the sinking realization that he knew. He didn't raise his voice or lash out. He didn't have to. His calm, deliberate tone was far more devastating. And then he pulled out his phone. He said he had been suspicious for a while, that he had noticed the way I acted around Ryan. He started reading out texts, messages I had sent to Ryan, messages I thought I had deleted, explicit texts, flirtations, plans to meet up. Each one felt like a dagger, not just because of what they revealed, but because of the way Tom delivered them. with a cold, quiet certainty that left no room for denial. He showed photos too, screenshots of conversations, pictures Ryan had sent me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. All I could do was stand there, frozen, as Tom laid out every detail of my betrayal. The neighbors were silent, their faces a mix of shock and discomfort. Some of them looked at me like they didn't recognize me, like I wasn't the person they thought I was. Others glanced at Tom with a kind of pity, like they couldn't believe what he had been putting up with. I wanted to say something, to explain or defend myself, but what could I possibly say? The evidence was right there, undeniable and damning. Tom ended his speech by saying that he couldn't do this anymore. He said he was leaving, that he deserved better than someone who would humiliate him in front of the people who were supposed to be their friends. And then he walked away, leaving me standing there in the middle of the yard, exposed and humiliated in a way I had never imagined. The barbecue broke up shortly after that. People didn't know what to say or how to act, so they avoided me. A few murmured polite goodbyes before leaving, while others avoided eye contact altogether. Ryan, of course, was nowhere to be found. He had disappeared the moment things started to unravel, leaving me to deal with the fallout on my own. I went home that night to an empty house. Tom didn't come back, and the silence was deafening. I sat in the living room, replaying the events of the barbecue over and over in my head, feeling the weight of my choices crushing down on me. I had thought I could keep everything under control, that I could have my little secret without it affecting my life. But I was wrong. Tom had exposed everything, and now there was no going back. In that moment, I realized how much I had underestimated him. I had always thought of him as quiet, passive, someone who would never stand up for himself. But the way he handled the confrontation, the calm, methodical way he laid out the truth, showed me just how wrong I had been. He wasn't weak. He was strong in a way I had never given him credit for, and I had thrown away the best thing in my life for nothing. Now, all I can do is live with the consequences. I've lost Tom, my neighbors, my sense of belonging, and it's all my fault. If I thought the barbecue was the worst of it, I was wrong. That night wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. News of what happened spread through the neighborhood faster than I ever imagined. By the next morning, it felt like everyone knew. The neighbors who used to wave at me as I walked the kids to school now avoided making eye contact. People I used to chat with over coffee suddenly seemed too busy to talk. Even casual acquaintances, the ones I'd barely interacted with, looked at me differently, like I was someone they didn't want to associate with anymore. I tried to convince myself that it wasn't as bad as it seemed, that maybe it was just in my head, but the signs were impossible to ignore. I saw the way people pulled their kids closer when they passed my house, the way conversations stopped when I walked into a room. The few times I tried to join a group or say hello, the responses were polite but cold, a stark contrast to the warmth I used to take for granted. The worst was seeing Tom out and about, surrounded by people who rallied around him like he was some kind of hero. And maybe he was. After all, he had handled everything with dignity while I had been exposed as a liar and a cheater. The support for Tom was overwhelming. Neighbors invited him over for dinner, checked in on him regularly, and made sure he knew he wasn't alone. Meanwhile, I was left to sit in the emptiness of my house, wondering how I had managed to lose not just my husband, but my entire community. Even the smallest tasks, like taking out the trash or going to the grocery store, became unbearable. I could feel the weight of their judgment in every glance, every whispered conversation that stopped when I walked by. And then there was Ryan. If there was one person I thought I could rely on, it was him. After all, he had been part of this too. But Ryan, it seemed, had no interest in standing by me. In the days following the barbecue, he completely distanced himself. He stopped responding to my texts, avoided me at every opportunity, and even went as far as denying the extent of our relationship to anyone who asked. From what I heard, he told people that our interactions were entirely innocent, that any insinuation otherwise was a misunderstanding. It was a blatant lie, and hearing it left me feeling used and discarded in a way I hadn't expected. I should have seen it coming. Ryan was young, charming, and completely unattached. He had nothing to lose and every reason to protect his reputation, even if it meant throwing me under the bus. I was nothing more than a distraction for him, something to pass the time. The realization stung, but I couldn't even be angry at him. I had been the one to let it happen. I had been the one to risk everything for a fleeting thrill. And now I was paying the price. Sitting in the quiet of my house, day after day, I've had a lot of time to think about how I ended up here. The truth is, I didn't just make one mistake. This wasn't about a single joke or a single affair. It was about a pattern of selfishness, of chasing validation instead of dealing with the deeper issues in my life. I wanted to feel wanted, to feel seen, and instead of talking to Tom about how I felt, I sought that feeling elsewhere, that flirty joke at the block party. It wasn't just a joke, it was a projection of everything I had been feeling, everything I had been too afraid to admit. I wanted Ryan to notice me, to give me the attention I thought I was missing. And when he did, I let myself believe that it was harmless, that I could have both, the stability of my marriage and the excitement of his attention. I told myself I wasn't doing anything wrong, even as I crossed line after line. But the truth is, I never appreciated what I had with Tom. He wasn't flashy or overly romantic, but he was steady. He was dependable. He was the kind of man who would drop everything to help me, who worked tirelessly to give us a good life. I mistook his quiet love for complacency, his patience for weakness. I took him for granted, believing he'd always be there no matter what. And now he's gone, and I don't know how to fix it. The worst part is, I don't even know if I deserve to fix it. Every time I think about reaching out to him, I stop myself. What could I possibly say that would make up for what I've done? How do you apologize for tearing someone's life apart, for making them feel humiliated and betrayed in front of the people they trusted? I don't know if there's a way to come back from this. I wish I could say that I've learned my lesson, that I'm ready to move forward and become a better person. But the truth is, I don't know where to start. The shame, the regret, the loneliness, it's all consuming. I wake up every day feeling like I'm drowning, and I don't know how to pull myself out. I can't undo what I've done, and I can't go back to the life I had before. All I can do is try to figure out how to live with the consequences. If anyone here has been through something like this, if you've ever lost everything because of your own mistakes, I'd love to hear how you got through it. Because right now, I feel like I'm at the bottom of a pit, and I don't know how to climb out. If nothing else, maybe sharing my story will help someone else avoid making the same mistakes. Because trust me, the regret isn't worth it. Update. Hey everyone, it's been 2 weeks since the barbecue, and every day feels heavier than the last. I thought the initial humiliation was the worst of it, that the whispers, the stares, and the isolation couldn't possibly get any worse. But I was wrong. The fallout keeps growing, like ripples in a pond, and I'm the one sinking in the middle of it all. Tom has moved out. He didn't tell me where he was going or leave any kind of explanation. I only found out through mutual friends that he's staying with one of the neighbors, someone who clearly decided to take his side in all this. I don't blame them. If I were in their shoes, I'd probably do the same. But knowing he's just a few doors down, surrounded by people who care about him and support him, makes the silence in our house even louder. From what I've heard, he's doing well. Better than well, actually. People have been checking in on him, inviting him over for dinners and barbecues, making sure he knows he's not alone. They've rallied around him in a way I never expected, like he's some kind of hero for walking away from me. And maybe he is. I know I deserve the judgment, the cold shoulders, but seeing him thrive while I'm crumbling is harder than I thought it would be. Apparently, Tom is thinking about selling the house. That bit of news hit me like a punch to the gut. I overheard one of the neighbors talking about it while I was taking out the trash, saying that he doesn't want to stay in a place with so many memories, or with so much awkwardness. I can't say I'm surprised. Every corner of this house holds a piece of our life together, and I ruined all of it. I've been avoiding the living room where we used to watch movies, the kitchen where he'd surprise me with late-night snacks, even the bedroom where things started to fall apart. It's like the walls are closing in, suffocating me with reminders of what I've lost. And now, it might not even be my home for much longer. As if that weren't enough, Ryan has decided to make things even worse. I hadn't heard from him since the night of the barbecue, which was bad enough. But now, I've learned he's been spreading rumors to protect himself, downplaying what happened between us and making it seem like I was the one who pursued him. He's telling people that he didn't know I was serious, that he thought I was just being playful, and that he had no idea how far things had gone until it was too late. It's a blatant lie, but I can't do anything about it. Who would believe me over him? The worst part is how easily people seem to believe him. I can feel it in the way they look at me, the judgment in their eyes. I'm no longer just the woman who cheated on her husband. I'm the woman who dragged someone else down with her. It doesn't matter that Ryan was a willing participant, that he was just as complicit in all of this as I was. To them, he's the innocent party, the poor guy who got caught up in my selfishness. And me? I'm the villain. I've stopped trying to interact with the neighbors. Every time I step outside, it feels like I'm walking through a minefield of judgment. The friendly waves and small talk that used to fill my days are gone, replaced by cold stares and whispered conversations. People cross the street to avoid me. Some don't even bother to hide their disdain, turning their backs or pulling their kids closer as if my mistakes might rub off on them. The isolation is unbearable. I've never felt more alone in my life. Even the few friends I thought might stand by me have distanced themselves, choosing to align with Tom instead. One of them told me bluntly that she couldn't support what I'd done and that she needed to think about her own reputation. I can't blame her, but it doesn't make the rejection any easier. Inside the house, the silence is suffocating. I spend most of my days sitting in the living room, staring at the same walls and replaying every mistake I made. I keep thinking about the moment Tom walked out, the look on his face when he confronted me in front of everyone. I keep wondering if there was something I could have said or done to make him stay, even though I know deep down that I don't deserve his forgiveness. I've thought about reaching out to him, about apologizing and trying to explain myself. But every time I pick up my phone, I stop myself. What would I even say? He's made it clear that he doesn't want to hear from me, and I don't think I could handle the rejection. I can't even bring myself to text Ryan, even though I've been tempted more than once to confront him about the lies he's spreading. It wouldn't matter. He's moved on, just like everyone else, leaving me to deal with the mess we created. I've started avoiding social media altogether. Every time I log on, I see posts about Tom, photos of him with the neighbors, smiling and laughing like nothing ever happened. People leave comments about how strong he is, how much they admire him for the way he's handled everything. And then there are the posts about Ryan, who somehow manages to come out of this looking untouchable. It's like the world is moving on without me, and I'm stuck in this endless loop of regret and shame. I don't know how to move forward from this. The weight of what I've done feels like it's crushing me, and I don't know how to climb out from under it. Every choice I made, every decision that led me here, feels like a mistake I can never undo. I thought I was chasing happiness, excitement, validation, but all I found was loneliness and regret. I don't know what the future holds. All I know is that the life I had, the life I took for granted, is gone, and I have no one to blame but myself. Update. Reddit. This may very well be my last post here. It's been a month now since the barbecue, and somehow things keep finding new ways to get worse. I thought I'd already hit rock bottom, but the universe seems determined to show me there's always further to fall. The divorce papers arrived last week. Seeing them, holding them in my hands, made everything feel real in a way it hadn't before. I knew it was coming, of course. After everything that happened, there was no chance Tom would forgive me. But actually seeing his name on those papers, his signature, his decision to end what we had, was devastating. I can't stop thinking about the life we used to have. I keep replaying the good moments, the small things that I took for granted. The way he'd kiss my forehead when he thought I was asleep. The way he'd always pick up my favorite snacks without me asking. I even miss the sound of him humming while he worked on his laptop, something I used to tease him about. Now, the silence in this house feels like it's suffocating me, and knowing he's already moving on makes it that much harder. From what I've heard, because of course everyone's talking about it, Tom is seeing someone new. She's a friend of one of the neighbors, someone I vaguely remember meeting at a few gatherings. I can't remember her name, but I can picture her perfectly. Petite, bubbly, with the kind of effortless charm that draws people in. It's no surprise that Tom would be attracted to her. She's everything I'm not. Kind, warm, trustworthy. The news shouldn't bother me. I have no right to feel jealous after what I've done. But the jealousy is there, gnawing at me every time I think about him laughing with her, sharing the little moments that used to be ours. I can't stop picturing them together, and it's like a knife to the chest. I know I drove him away. I know I'm the reason he's with her now, but knowing that doesn't make it hurt any less. As if that weren't enough, Ryan has left the neighborhood. One day, he was just gone. No warning, no goodbye, nothing. I found out through another neighbor who mentioned it casually like it wasn't a big deal. Apparently, he got a new job in another city and decided to move on with his life. Just like that, he's out of the picture, leaving me to deal with the mess we created on my own. I should have expected it. Ryan always struck me as the type who never stayed in one place for too long, the kind of person who could walk away without looking back. But his departure still feels like another betrayal, another reminder of how disposable I've become. He was the one who made me feel seen, who made me feel alive again. And now, he's gone, leaving nothing but the wreckage of what we did. The neighbors barely acknowledge me anymore. They've all rallied around Tom, throwing their support behind him, while I've been left to deal with their judgment in silence. I see it in the way they avoid my gaze, the way they cross the street to avoid walking past my house. Even the kids feel it. I overheard one of them ask their mom why they didn't play with mine anymore, and the mom just muttered something about keeping a little distance. It's like I'm a leper, someone to be avoided at all costs. I can't blame them. I did this to myself. I made choices that hurt the people I cared about most, and now I'm paying the price. But the isolation is crushing. I've stopped trying to go to neighborhood events or make small talk with anyone. I barely leave the house unless I have to. Every time I step outside, it feels like the walls are closing in, like everyone is watching and judging and waiting for me to break. And maybe I already have. The house doesn't feel like home anymore. It's just an empty shell, filled with memories that hurt too much to think about. I can't look at the living room without remembering the nights we spent there, curled up on the couch watching movies. I can't walk into the kitchen without hearing his voice, teasing me about my terrible cooking. Every room feels like a monument to what I've lost, and staying here feels like a punishment I deserve. I don't know what the future looks like for me. I don't even know where to start rebuilding. Every choice I've made has led me here, to this place of regret and loneliness. I thought I was chasing excitement, passion, something to fill the void I couldn't explain. But all I found was heartbreak. For me, for Tom, for everyone involved. And now I'm left with nothing. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's how dangerous boredom and insecurity can be. I let them drive me to make choices I'll regret for the rest of my life. I let them blind me to what I had, to the love and stability that Tom provided without question. I thought I wanted more, but now I see how much I took for granted. Tom was the best thing in my life, and I threw it all away for nothing. To anyone reading this, please don't make the same mistakes I did. Don't let your own fears or insecurities blind you to what you have. Don't take the people who love you for granted. Because once they're gone, you'll realize too late how much they meant. And the regret, it will eat you alive. Trust me, it's not worth it.